pretty normal in the summer for it to go up to the L and then come back down, but not, you know, in the fall. Welcome back to Living with a Classic and Daily Driving a Classic Weekly. The first week of being back at the office, been dailying my 1975 XJ6. I've noticed a couple things that we want to sort out, and you see the title of this video is Evans. And I've been using Evans now for 6 months, and I feel like it's running a little bit hot, and we checked other things, and I checked the gauge with, I mean, it doesn't overheat. Overheating is something else, but it's just running a little bit too hot for my liking, and that has other consequences. That, you know, heat soak and such things. Like if I pull off the highway to the gas station and get back, the gauge is really high. It's past the normal part when I get back. And yes, it does cool down, but it's not warm outside right now. It is fall here. It is 14 degrees Celsius maybe, and it should not be running this hot in my opinion. So what I want to do is remove it from the engine, and we're going to pick up regular coolant. I'm at the parts store now, just getting cheap regular coolant to try it out and see if this thing runs cooler and how it behaves. But one good thing is I just did the math on the fuel economy, and guess what the fuel economy is? I am astonished. I've been driving it now for 1 week. Been doing highway driving, city driving, start, stop, short distances, long distances, you name it. But some long things on the highway, but just regular use of this car. We're talking 11 liters per 100 kilometers. That's not bad for a 1975 car with a 4.2 liter straight six. But let me show you where the temperature gauge sits now, and then we can show you where it will sit hopefully later. So I just pulled in here, and you see you have the normal range here, and I checked everything with an infrared thermometer as well. So my thermostat is an 82 degree thermostat, so that opens between the N and the O, somewhere over there. When I'm out driving on the highway, it will sit at the beginning of M, not really towards the R, but like at just the beginning of M, and now it's just creeped up a tiny bit sitting here. If I switch it off, go in the store and come back, it will be past the L. It will come down to here again. And like I said, it's not overheating. It's not doing anything like that. It's not boiling over. Evans can't boil over. But it's just, you see, I'm knocking it. It's going up. I'm just not liking it because it's cool outside. It is fall, and it shouldn't be this warm. So we're gonna try switching it back to regular coolant and see how that goes. But let's switch it off, head inside, and just buy some coolant. Just picked up some coolant. Let's just see how much it's heat soaked. I'm sitting here, maybe it's been 5 minutes or so. I mean, it's quite cold outside, very windy, so maybe it hasn't gone on that much. But the other day, when I came back from I just got some Subway, and I came back, and it was past the L. And this is pretty normal in the summer for it to go up to the L and then come back down, but not, you know, in the fall. So drive home now tomorrow, swap that out, and we'll see what happens. It'll be a fun little experiment. It's been a good 6-month experiment with this, but it's a little too hot for my liking. I'm starting to drain out the Evans now, let everything cool down overnight. And I want to show you, I have a new work light, and I'm really happy with it. A friend of mine recommended it. They're actually from Lidl, and they're magnetic and LED and really bright. I haven't charged this one yet. I just picked it up yesterday. You can see it has 2 out of 3 battery lines. Really good. I picked up 2. I think I'm going to actually pick up a couple more, because they're only like about 129 kroners, so somewhere around $12-13. And I've been looking for a new light, especially magnetic ones like this, and they charge from the base. So I don't know, at least in Sweden you can pick them up right now. Maybe you can get them somewhere else, but really happy with them, because it doesn't really matter what kind of light you have when you work. They always get dropped, get oil on them and stuff. You don't want them to be bad. And a friend of mine has had his for a year and been really happy with them. But we're draining this stuff out. I'm not going to throw it out because this stuff is expensive. I'm going to pour it into bottles, which I've cleaned very very thoroughly so they're completely not contaminated with anything else. And we'll save this, and if this doesn't work, if it doesn't run any better with regular coolant, then we'll pour this stuff back in, because I love the idea that it's for life, that you never have to change it. I love that there's no pressure in the system. I love all these other things, but it has those couple drawbacks that just doesn't really work for me. The other drawback is how it conducts heat. There have been several experiments on this, and basically it just doesn't conduct heat as well as water does, which has an effect on cooling, of course, but that's not really the most annoying thing for me. The most annoying thing for me is the heater isn't that great in this car, and I drive this thing year round and I want a good heater, and these cars have fantastic heaters, but it's just not as good as I remember it. So we're also going to see if the heater feels hotter. I mean, that would be a subjective thing, but right now it's really not that hot unless you have a full blast, and it should still be pretty hot when you have it, you know, not on defrost. So that will be a thing, but I'm going to drain this. We will let it drain. Then I have new coolant. We'll just add that, let it thing run up the temperature, burp it, and we'll see what happens. This is just regular hard store generic premix coolant. It was about 50 bucks for all of this. So we're using that now basically to test this, and then I may replace it with, you know, a little bit higher quality coolant later, but I just want to see if this theory of mine works out. If it doesn't, you know, then we may go back to the Evans. I have saved it because it's quite expensive. But, we'll see. And I really don't mind changing coolant every 2 years, flushing the system, all of that, because of, you know, every maybe 8 years or so I want to change hoses anyways and things. So really not that big of a deal to me. But all I really want is a well-working cooling system and good heat, because I drive this thing when it's really cold as well. So let me just fill all this up, and then we'll start the car, burp the system, and I'm not going to go for a drive with it today. However, I'm going to go back to work again on Monday, and I'll continue driving this thing for about a week or maybe a little bit longer, and then I'll update you guys how it goes. So the video's not going to end quite now. I'm going to continue driving the car, monitoring temperature. It's fall here now, so the temperatures are, you know, almost the same every single day. It's like, you know, a couple degrees difference, so it's a really good time of year to test this out because we're not getting any, you know, extreme temperature variations. And yeah, my little magnetic light is going really well. I'm charging the other one using this one. Really happy. I think I'm going to pick up a couple more just to have. It seem to work really well. Just fired it up maybe 30 seconds ago, and put on the heat. Got it filled up full on both sides. Got caps on, so we'll let it circulate. And of course, once it's cooled down, we usually add about a liter or so to the system. But I'm gonna let it warm out now. Check for leaks. Yes, there is an exhaust leak right there. But I have a spare set of manifolds that are going on in a while with new studs and everything. But it goes away once it warms up, so it's fine so far. There we go. Smooth out a little bit. I'm going to go around with a flashlight, check for leaks, and then we'll do with an infrared thermometer, check what the thermostat opens, should be like 82 degrees. And that's one thing maybe I didn't mention, if you don't remember. The thermostat is only about 4 months old or something, and that's been already replaced at one point. And before, with the old engine and everything, this coolant system was working really well. Even in the hot summer, this thing never really got much above regular thermostat temperature, so this would be very interesting to see. And thermostat temperature is usually just about the end over there on the scale. So we'll check that when it gets a little bit warmer. The AED, which is basically choke, has just started to turn off, and we're starting to touch on the end there. So let's go see what kind of temperature we got. And we're at 70 degrees. This is sort of where that temperature sender is. And we're 65 there, so we haven't, the thermostat has not started to open yet. Just gonna give it a little bit of rev. Starting to feel a little bit of heat here for the heating system. '76, '77. Yeah, still 40 degrees in the radiator. 71 there, and then the thermostat is there, so 65. Let's go check what the gauge says. Just pulled it out a little bit so I don't get that many exhaust fumes up in the workshop. Alright, so we're at the N. The thermostat temperature, I believe, is somewhere between the N and the O, usually, when you have an 82 degree thermostat. So let's see. We are at 80. So that seems to be really bang on accurate. So very, very soon the thermostat should open up and we should have circulation through the radiator. A new light is working really, really well. Super happy with that. 82, 83. And we're starting to get, you know, this is just starting to open here. You'll be able to feel, yep, starting to feel a tiny bit of warmth coming through here. So the thermostat has just opened. And yeah, there we go. And so between the O and the R there, it's a little bit higher. It's definitely a lot lower than being over at the M. Let's see. I mean, there's tons of air bubbles and things in here anyways. We have 89, 90 degrees here about. So yeah, we're showing a little bit higher on there, but that is totally normal. And we got 80 flowing through here. Pretty happy with how this is going. So we see you've got 90 there about, which is, I mean, don't want to be too much above that. So we're 96. Sort of where I want to be. So 90 degrees is pretty much at the beginning of the M over there. Good little experiment this, but I'm gonna completely burp everything through here, and we'll see what the temperature sort of stabilizes at. It's about 3 weeks later, and I've been using the car quite a bit with the regular coolant, and I have noticed a difference. Just been to a grocery store, gonna head back home, and we'll talk a little about what the differences are. I'm not going to completely hate on Evans, because that's not what this video is about. I think it's a good product. It has its place. Let me just back out of the grocery store here. It definitely has its place. I think it just wasn't a good fit for me in this car. And that's sort of what this test was about. That, yes, it's a pretty good idea. And let's turn the heat down a bit. However, maybe it wasn't the best idea for this car. So I've been noticing quite a big difference in temperature. And you're looking at it right now and you think, well, it's colder. Yes, over the weekend and today it's gotten colder. But before that, we've had a relatively hot September, and it's been very stable. And remember, I've driven this thing through the winter as well, so I definitely know it well. I've double checked my temperature gauge with an infrared several times. It's running cooler. It's always running cooler now on the gauge, and that's something I really like. What I really like is that when I fill up with gas when I'm gone off the highway and I get out, it's not maxed off the scale when I get back. Yes, I do expect the temperature to rise a little bit, but not as much as it did before. That just wasn't nice. So vapor lock was always an issue certain hot days, which has never been an issue for me before and hasn't been now since I switched back. But really the biggest advantage for me, at least, is because I use this thing even when it's cold outside and rainy like this, and I love having a lot of heat. I'm sort of two extremes. In the summer, I want it really cool in my car, so I'll drive with max AC on. In the winter, I want max heat on. And the heat wasn't good in this car. And all my other XJs I've had before, I've always had phenomenal heat. Like, it's a big engine, it's a good heating system. You can get good heat out of these things. But I never could all winter last winter. So I thought that it was either something wrong with my adjustment or wrong with my heater core. And you remember, I haven't done anything, I haven't flushed anything or done anything now. All we did was drain the Evans and put regular coolant back in. And before, when it was like a cooler day like today, I'd always have to run it on max heat on the defrost setting to just even be comfortable in the car. Now I can have it on medium and it's nice and toasty. So that's one thing I've noticed, the heater works better. And that is a logical thing we're going to talk about. So I am no chemist, but I do know that Evans is basically just concentrated coolant without any water. And people who work on race cars and things like back in the day knows that the best way to get heat out of the engine is pure water. You don't run on pure water just because you don't want it to freeze and you don't want any corrosive, nature of that. That's why you run 50-50 antifreeze, or some type of coolant and 50% water. So you get the maximum amount of cooling that you can get by still protecting the inside of your engine. So by not having any water, you do get a little bit worse heat transfer, which is why it will run a little bit warmer, because the transfer of heat, for instance, for your radiator, transfer of heat out of your radiator into the air will not be as efficient. And I was a little bit okay with that because this car has a good coolant system and I was fine with that. However, what I didn't like was not having a good heater, because that same transfer of heat, because it's just a small radiator, the heater core, and that really sort of bugged me. Another reason I like going back to coolant is I drive this car quite a bit, so it doesn't sit. So I don't really have that issue. I don't mind switching out coolant every now and then, because I think flushing out coolant system is not a bad idea. That's a great idea. Also, if I were to spring a leak or something like that happens, because I use this thing a lot and I drive quite long distances as well, it's easy just to fill up with some water. And now, please don't think that I hate Evans coolant. I don't. I think it is a great product. I may use it again in the future for a classic hobby car. That's where I think it works well. So for instance, if this car was like a garage queen, a trailer queen, and I just brought it to car shows and it was perfect condition, I just drove it on the most beautiful sunny days ever, then Evans is great, because I'm not putting a lot of miles on it. So why should I need to maybe swap out coolant every 2 or 3 years if I don't put miles on something? Why not have something that can go in there forever and I'm not wearing out anything else, no pressure in the system. I'm never using the heater. And if it even were to run a little bit hotter, that's fine. I could put in a better radiator or electric fans and stuff, things like that. But this is my workhorse. I drive it pretty much every day. Every day I need to drive a car. Right now I use this, and well, it just didn't fit with me. I haven't thrown it away. I have saved it on a big container, and I may do something with it in the future, or if someone else nearby wants some Evans, I'll can give it to them if they want to use it. Because in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with the product at all. It just, I don't know, it just wasn't for me. And I think that is fair. I think that's a fair review of it, that it's a good product. It just didn't suit me for what I needed with this car. I wasn't comfortable with the higher temperatures on everything. I mean, running 10-15 degrees hotter, it might not seem like the end of the world, but it did make a difference with vapor lock. One other thing I've noticed is always before, if I drove this car, you know, all the way home and I parked it and it's been driving for a while and I turned it off, the next day I come out, my carbs will be completely empty with fuel and the pump will have to pump quite a bit to fill them up. Now, as I switch, that's also an interesting difference. So now when I turn on the ignition, I get 3 or 4 pumps. It ticks from the SU pump, carbs are full, it starts up. So definitely difference. But anyways, I hope you guys like this. Let me know in the comments down below if you use Evans. I know some people watching do use it, and honestly, it's not bad, but it just isn't the right fit for me with this car. But if you like this video, please give a thumbs up, share it with friends. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. Until next time, I'm Adam. This was Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.